Just check in with, when do you get imposter syndrome? Where do you get it? Has it changed at all? I think it's the reps. I think it's got to be the reps. The reps are what matters the most. And how much do you learn?
So whenever you get results that are beyond your awareness, it's almost like you didn't design them. You didn't reverse engineer them. You didn't decide in advance. And it's almost like there's always going to be this dissonance.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode with the amazing Lauren Johnson today for episode number 931, Imposter Syndrome, an Honest Conversation. So I was on a podcast today. As of the day we are recording this, Alan and I are a little giggly, so if we laugh, that is why. It has been a long day and a long week. So the host asked me, he said, Kev, somebody who's 930 episodes in, podcasting must be pretty easy for you at this point. And I said, honestly, no, I still have days, I still have moments, I still have episodes where I get imposter syndrome. And I said, we just did an event on Saturday, and that was the hardest thing in the world. Speaking on stage is still that thing for me that puts me way, way, way outside of my comfort zone. Being on podcasts is easier than it's ever been, for sure. But there's always a level of imposter syndrome for me in basically everything I do. And Alan and I wanted to just have an open and honest conversation, because I think a lot of people, when they become quote unquote successful and they get beyond what they thought they would get, they don't want to talk about imposter syndrome. And you know us, we want to be heart-driven, but no BS. And part of that heart-driven is being transparent and admitting that I have imposter syndrome, just like every other human being. Is it different and is it less in certain arenas than it's ever been? Absolutely. But I don't want anybody to think that myself or Alan has it all figured out. Now, Alan doesn't deal with imposter syndrome at all. I'll say very little compared to me, but I figured it's worth having a conversation over and seeing if we can get to the root cause of it, or if we can help you with your imposter syndrome. That is the goal for today's episode.
So I have dealt with imposter syndrome, but it's been very, very short amounts of time. And I think it has a lot to do with self-belief, and it has to do with deciding in advance to achieve something. So if you picture two circles on a piece of paper, and one of the circles is a bigger circle, imagine your results are the bigger circle. And then inside that big circle, there's a littler circle that is your awareness. If your results exceed your own expectations, if they exceed your own awareness, so for example, if let's say you make, $150,000 a year, but you're only aware of how to make $50,000 a year, but someone gave you a promotion that you didn't think you deserved, you didn't believe that you deserved, you didn't believe that you could get, that's very different than someone saying, you know what? I believe I can make $150,000 per year 10 years from now, and I'm going to start working on that right now. See, when the person who believes it in advance gets to 150 grand a year, they're not going to be as an imposter, because they're going to be like, yeah, no, I worked for this. I chose in advance to do this, and I put in the work to figure out how to do it. So whenever you get results that are beyond your awareness, it's almost like you didn't design them. You didn't reverse engineer them. You didn't decide in advance. And it's almost like there's always going to be this dissonance between, so if you think about the amount of money that you make right now, okay, you don't make that amount of money because you want to make that amount of money. You make that amount of money because you aren't aware of how to make more. If you make $50,000 a year, it's not because you want to make $50,000 a year. It's because you're not aware of how to make $150,000. So one of the reasons why Kevin and I have grown this business so much is because, quite frankly, and I say this without ego, I just know how to do it. And Kev, I know you do too, and I've taught you a lot as well, but I think that a lot of people get results that they don't know how they got.
Yeah.
And I think it creates imposter syndrome. If you don't know how you got the results you've got, how are you going to double down on it? How do you even know how to keep it? And I want to interview you, Kev, about this, because most of the results that I've achieved in my life, I decided in advance to go achieve those. And then I went and figured out how to do it after, because I had a lot of belief in my own ability to grow into whatever my goal was. So for you, at that event, Next Level Live on Saturday, Did you feel any level of imposter syndrome?
Not consciously, no. I mean, we talked about that. There was a moment on stage where I may have liver punched, not physically, Alan by accident or unintentionally. I won't say by accident. But not consciously, no. I think it was our event, you and I. It was Next Level You. It was our brand. I think for me, that was what I was proud of that, and that instilled confidence in me that, well, a lot of these people are here to see the brand and hear about the brand, and they've heard good things. So I got if I had any, it was unconscious, and I feel like it was very little because it's speaking. It's speaking. So I think I've told the stories that I've told before. I didn't go through my presentation before I did it, so that made it challenging, but very little.
What about the first event that we ever hosted, or co-hosted rather? Did you have any imposter syndrome at your World Within Live?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So what's the difference? I think one of the things that's fascinating about this is that you and I decided, okay, we're going to have an event in Worcester with 50 people, right? We decided in advance together, and then we built it, obviously the team as well. Shout out to the team, but it was premeditated. It was decided in advance. So I guess what was different about your World Within Live?
Well, I think this is the interesting thing, and I think this is why my experience will probably be much different than most other people's. We've done 600 podcast episodes. That has to play into it. That has to count for something. I've been on however many other podcasts. You and I have done 102 weeks in a row of a live virtual keynote. We've spoken virtually to groups of 150 people. I just think it's the reps. Is it the same rep? No, it's not, because it's not in person on stage. But that is the reason I think that the imposter syndrome is less than maybe somebody else who, I mean, because you got to think, you and I are on these microphones speaking more than most humans. And in the back of my mind, I know that counts for something. So I know worst case scenario, I'm probably still going to be a pretty decent speaker. Even if I jeff my PowerPoint or I make a mistake, the odds are people aren't going to know that I made a mistake, right? Because my worst day is probably still, and I don't mean an ego by this, it's just the reps, but my worst day is still probably better than a lot of early speakers' best days. We have our episodes where we're cracking up and we're struggling to get through, but very often do we get off here and I say, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't deliver a decent amount of speaking, or I didn't bring a fair quality of speech or words, or the through line of that episode was garbage. That doesn't happen very often for us. So I just think that the reps paired with 1% improvements over time, worst case scenario is still better than best case scenario ever was for me.
I remember when we talked about your past, you said you used to think you got lucky.
Yeah.
You're an all-star baseball player, right? Could have played in college if you wanted to. You made $100 an hour easily. You made six figures in your mid-20s without a college degree. When did you feel the most amount of imposter syndrome? Like really, like when were you the most feeling like an imposter? Any answer?
I think early when I left my job to do this, I think that was when I felt the most, because I had zero results. I'm a full-time podcaster with no full-time results, no results really. So I think early on I had the biggest. I remember the first, and you'll remember this too, the first podcast I was ever on, well, it was Alan's, but after that, Anthony Trucks had you and I on very, very early in our career, and I remember thinking, what in the hell is he having? Why is he having me on? I've never been on a podcast. I don't know how well this is going to go. I had a ton of imposter syndrome then. I remember, rest in peace, Sam Bakhtiar. Sam Bakhtiar was a podcaster and a very successful business owner, and he used to podcast from his garage with his Ferrari in the background. And I did that interview in Alan's mom's basement back when that was our studio, and he was asking me about podcasting. I remember that. I have a teaser clip on my Instagram that they made for me about, it said the hard truth about podcasting or something like that. The full truth about podcasting. So there's been a lot. Anytime early on you and I were talking business with people, I would get a ton of imposter syndrome, for sure.
What about the island party?
Yeah. Yeah, that was something different. That was not only imposter syndrome. That was like anxiety zone. That was anxiety zone.
What about like the Arizona infinity pool?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of this for me has been like, how did I get here? And okay, I'll tell this. I don't think this is necessarily, well, it probably is. It's probably more attached to it than I gave credit to because I wasn't thinking in this frame. But the lead up to a live event is just very challenging. It's very stressful. There's a lot of things up in the air. Are people going to show up? What's going to happen here? It's just, there's a lot of uncertainty. The day of the event, there's a lot of uncertainty. Is the tech going to work? Are people going to show up? How is my speech going to go? Am I going to look like an idiot? Walking up to stage with your music playing and your name called is 10 out of 10 anxiety. It's brutal. Going on stage is the hardest part because it's like, okay, here we are. And then 10 minutes in, once you hit flow, it's usually pretty good. But after you speak, if you're very relaxed, you're relieved, but there's an adrenaline dump of you just get super tired and it's exhausting. It's like, it feels like you just ran a marathon. We go to lunch with the team and then we go home and I watched UFC and I hung out on the couch from 5 till midnight and I went to sleep. And then it's almost like you wake up and the next couple days you're hungover. It's just this like this emotional dump. And on Monday, I remember thinking, and I told you this, I remember waking up thinking, okay, I had a bunch of people that were taking pictures of me, with me, saying we're amazing, and now I feel weird. I feel like it's like back to normal. It's this weird, I don't know how to explain it, but you go from top of the top to what seems like rock bottom in a couple day span, just emotionally. And I wonder if that's part of it, if part of it's unconsciously feeling that like an imposter, going back to quote unquote normal life after speaking. I don't know. But I feel like walking people through that is probably valuable because at least maybe you have that. Maybe you have that in your career, whatever it is. Maybe it's a coaching call, an interview, going to do client work or whatever it may be. I don't know. But I think that's probably partially imposter syndrome.
I think what's interesting is we all are drawn to where we are most valued, where we feel most valued. And this is another thing to contemplate as well. Kevin and I, overall, I think we rocked the house. I think it was awesome. Fire event. Everyone there is there to get to the next level of their life. Everybody knows us. Great intros. Jen had incredible things to say, introing us, song coming up, big stage, dressed nice, photo booth. We had 3 photographers, or 4 actually, and then 1 videographer. It's like, I'm in the middle of a conversation and there's people flashing pictures, and it's definitely a exhilarating experience. It's exhausting, but it's exhilarating. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, everyone in this room is here to see us speak, and they're excited to see us speak, and they're taking notes, and it's great, and they're hanging on every word, and we appreciate it. But if you were to walk out to the streets of Worcester, like when you're in that room, you feel like you're on cloud 9. But then if we were to walk down the streets of Worcester, no one would know who Alan and Kevin are.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone in that context of that room knows Alan and Kevin, knows Next Level University, and is there to learn and see us. And I appreciate that, and that's great. But if you were to walk in the streets of Worcester, no one would know us. We're not famous, right? And so it's interesting because I want everyone to understand something. Kevin and I have a very small taste of semi-fame. And one of my clients and dear friends now was semi-famous in this greater Boston area. And it's not like it's not cool. It's awesome, and I appreciate it. And in a way, you can't really influence others without this, so it's necessary.
What is up, you guys? My name is Gabby, and I just want to give a huge shout out to Kevin and Alan for the community that they have created and the mission that they are on over at Next Level University. Never in a million years did I think when I started listening to the Hyperconscious podcast 2 years ago that I would be as invested as I am today. But here we are 2 years later. I have done group coaching. I truly look forward to every single episode they drop, all of the things that they're teaching. And I am now doing one-on-one coaching with Alan to help level up in my business. And all I gotta say about these guys across the board is they are true, genuine souls. They mean it when they say they are heart-driven, and they mean it when they say they are no BS. And I think that's probably my favorite part about them. They get rid of the fluff. They give you tactical tips and tricks to help you level up in your life, to help you make strides towards your goals. And they've created a community of like-minded people to lean on each other at every single stage of life. So guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the impact that you have made in my life, and I am so very excited to see the impact and the waves that you make from here on out.
But it's not what you think. And I think it's important. I think there's a reason why really famous people sometimes have really bad mental health issues, because it's got to mess with your head a little bit. Because, you know, all of us know who Oprah Winfrey is, but when Oprah Winfrey's on the treadmill by herself, like she's not that much more capable than us. As a matter of fact, she's not even more capable than us. Like, think about that for a sec, Kev. Like, in that context, she's just a person walking on a treadmill. So it's important for all of us to kind of try to resonate in our truth and try not to let the really low lows or the really high highs like mess with your identity. I think for me, I try to stay very centered, and this isn't what I expected to say on this episode, but on my speech, I said, I was asked, I always say this, I was asked on a podcast once, what does it mean to be next level? And I said, I told this on stage, I can only ever give one answer. It's who am I and what am I doing when no one's watching? Because to me, that is what's most important to me. And I told everyone on that stage, while I was on that stage in that audience, I said, I appreciate you all being here, and I'm excited, and I tried hard for this speech. But when I'm alone at the gym later, I'm telling you, the amount of effort I put in there, when I'm behind the scenes with Emilia, how kind I am and respectful I am to her when no one's watching, I'm telling you right now, that actually matters to me more. And I'm not just saying it, I actually mean it. Like, when I'm alone in the gym, the effort I put in there actually matters more to me than my performance on this stage right now. And I know that doesn't, it's like, does that land with anybody? I don't even know. I just think that's what's ultimately going to matter. And I think that's why I don't have imposter syndrome. I think it's because I want my real life to be better than my inflated one or whatever. And it goes both ways too, because I don't want to deflate my value either, right? If we're amazing speakers and podcasters and we're in a room about speaking on stage on podcasting, of course our value is going to be a little inflated. But if we're, speaking about gardening and we know nothing about gardening at a gardening convention and we're undervalued, that kind of makes sense. We're supposed to be undervalued, right? Yeah. In that context, I think value is very contextual. And if you don't know that, it might mess with you a little bit. And I think subconsciously we're all trying to go where we're valued. If you have a really nice car and you show up to my house, I'm not going to care about your car. I just don't care. But if you go to Kevin's house, he'll give you a compliment on your car. He'll be like, "Oh, wow, that's an awesome," right? So value is very contextual, and you got to be really careful, because your imposter syndrome might be just a dissonance between your reality and other people's perception.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. I had a moment where I was walking to the bathroom the other day. I don't know if it was Sunday or Monday. And I thought, what does it feel like to be a Taylor Swift or an Eminem and sell out a stadium of 80,000 people in a matter of minutes, then go perform and then go to regular life? What is that like? That must be so strange. It must be the strangest thing in the world.
It's like you're just on stage with 80,000 people that you sold out in 5 minutes, and now you're peeing onto a urinal cake.
Yeah, you just
it's what is that
you wake up and then you walk down your hallway after you've woken up, and you wake up and you're tired just like everybody else, and you have to get water first thing in the morning. I don't know. It's very trippy. It's very trippy. And again, we're not selling out 80,000 person arenas yet. In the future that'll be a thing. But just check in with, when do you get imposter syndrome? Where do you get it? Has it changed at all? I think it's the reps. I think it's got to be the reps. The reps are what matters the most. And how much do you learn? So I've also learned, I've really thought about this, Alan. I was on the treadmill today, and Alan and I were talking the other day, and I said, I think it's time for me to learn more math. I'm learning a lot about money, but I understand that math is the biggest thing to learn about money, really, because it's all numbers anyway. So I YouTubed math for finances, and these free college courses came up. So I was like, all right, cool, awesome, let's do this. The first thing they're talking about is sports betting and how to figure out, I don't know, how to hedge a bet. So if the probability is correct, no matter what, you don't lose money. And I was like, awesome, that's cool. Like, I love sports betting. Let me look into this. 15 minutes in, I learned something new. I learned the equations to figure out if something is a good bet and if it's a net zero bet and all that. And the first thing I did was open up my sports betting app to see if I could do it. I've realized, Alan, that awareness is my biggest weakness. I will do something immediately after I know how to do it. I usually just don't know how to do it yet. And the second I do, I get super excited because I feel empowered. So I do believe that's probably what it is my awareness isn't as high as the world. I don't even want to say the world thinks, because I don't know what the world thinks my awareness is. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. Yeah.
Can the world think my awareness is higher than it is?
If their awareness is higher, yeah.
But if their awareness is higher...
No.
Right.
No, they won't think it's... Yeah, they can if you have things that are beyond your awareness. Yeah. So, for example, if you had your AMG GTR, your $260,000 car, then they would assume you know more than you do, which is where imposter syndrome comes, I think. Whereas everyone assumes because I drive a 2008 Subaru that I know less than I do. Yeah. And so I'm just used to everyone seeing me as less than what I really am.
What's the opposite? What's the opposite of imposter syndrome?
Whatever I feel like often. Kev, I want to tell this story quickly.
Please.
When we were at Nipmunk High School, and shout out to Nipmunk, they did awesome. They had us in for career day. But the truth of the matter is, right, people signed up for podcasting, but the kids didn't necessarily want to start a podcast. Right. They just wanted a free block, right? Yeah. So we did 2 3-hour speeches, 6 hours for free at this school. And I appreciate the opportunity, and it was wonderful because I love speaking to kids, absolutely adore it. But Kevin was like, they don't want to listen. They don't really care. They're not here to really learn about podcasting. And afterwards, Kevin was like, well, I felt a little bit undervalued, and I appreciate your honesty. I told Kev, I always feel that way. Yeah. That's not new for me. There's almost never a time where someone actually is listening to me as much as I think they would benefit. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's why coaching is so awesome, is because it's like the people there are paying me to learn, and I get to actually impart my wisdom, whereas most of the time, no one even wants to listen. Yeah. It's like wild. It's almost like, Kev, those high school kids didn't really want to start a podcast, so they weren't that interested in podcasting. You were like a little bit frustrated with, being undervalued in that setting. Kev, I feel like in a weird way, I'm almost always that way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, because no one sees me as Steve Jobs yet, or anything like that, or Elon, or whatever. And understandable. I'm not claiming that they should see me that way. But what I'll say is this: my true value of awareness is always far beyond what other people know it is. And you actually are someone who's been with me for 5 years, and so other people have come to you of like, why is he CEO? Why is he this? Well, and you're like, you don't understand. No. You don't know what he knows. You couldn't. And I'll say this quickly too. I had a client once who said, Alan, you're amazing at personal development and productivity and peak performance and all these things, and I appreciate your help, but I don't consider you that extraordinary at business. And I said, with all the love and respect in the world, your business doesn't play at a level where I get to show you what I know. One of my clients went from $200,000 a year to $200,000 a month to almost $200,000 a day, and then potentially being acquired for upwards of $100 million. And it's like, that's where I can play right now. Right now, I can play there. I actually helped him put together that proposal, and I don't think it's going to end up happening because of other reasons, but it's not because I don't know how, Kev. You know what I mean? And that's one of the disconnects that I'm having trouble with is no one. So Kevin and I, very blessed to have grossed $100,000 in the last 3 months. The reason why that is possible is because I know how to do that. That was all pre-designed. That was all, and we built that, and I'm grateful. But it's almost like I know how to build the car. No one knows I know how to build the car, but they'll never not know less than they know right now. And so you don't like to be undervalued, Kev. I don't think I've ever been fully valued at my true value because I think my perception was always lower than my reality, my truth. And I think that if you're out there and you feel imposter syndrome, maybe you've been valued beyond what you've maybe earned. I don't know. Or maybe you just don't believe in yourself enough and haven't designed, your future in the way you want. But the opposite, I think, is rare. So like one of my clients is unbelievable. Her name is Helen. She is not seen at her true value because she doesn't have a $1 billion tech company yet. But when she does, all of a sudden the whole world will see her the way I see her now. Yeah. And I think that that's just an interesting thing to think about. So everyone out there, just contemplate this and realize, like, if you don't know how to achieve your goals, you have to go figure out how. We haven't not achieved our goals yet because I don't know how. It's just a matter of time. Time is a part of the equation that is absolutely critical. The compound effect hasn't caught up with my awareness yet. And there's certain things and tweaks that I need to learn and you need to learn. That we'll never stop learning. Yep. But I don't think our results will ever exceed my awareness. I just don't.
This was a very interesting episode.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this one very much.
Kicking it old school, man. It was
this was good. I enjoyed this. I think I'd like to start doing maybe one of these, or I don't know what it's considered, but usually we have stories, and we had stories here, but I think it was good to kind of go off script and just think about it. I really think my biggest takeaway is it's the reps and it's the knowledge. I really do, because I'm more confident than I've ever been. I have greater results than I've ever been. But I can tell you this, my confidence is 5x what it's ever been. Maybe my results are 3x. And so I think that the gap has closed when it comes to that. As we accelerate, well, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to keep learning every single day for the rest of my life. So that's part of the plan for sure. Next Level Nation. If you are watching this, if you are listening to this, and you want to level up your community, we have many, many, many free things. That is one of the things that we provide, many free opportunities. But one of the best ones is our private Facebook group, Next Level Nation. There's a new post in there every day. It's positivity, it's inspiration, it's motivation. Sometimes it's education, but it's community. And we all want a next level community. Click the link in the show notes. It'll take you right there.
If you've struggled with imposter syndrome, it means you probably struggle with self-confidence and self-belief. And we have a course. It's an online course. It's completely free. You've heard about it many times. Click the link in the show notes. It's about clarity, confidence, commitment, community, and consistency. If you want to build self-belief, you can do it. Kevin's done it over many, many years. And if you feel imposter syndrome, it's important to start setting goals and then proving to yourself that you can achieve them. Set a goal, prove it. Set a goal, prove it. Set a goal, prove it. Eventually, you just build so much confidence over time. But if you're just winging it and then getting results and you don't know how you got it, you're probably not going to build that self-confidence that you need to double and triple down on your dreams and your goals. So click the link in the show notes, download the course, and Kevin and I will also email you saying, hey, thank you so much for downloading our course. We appreciate you.
There's always a bunch of goodies in the show notes. You can count on a bunch of goodies in our show notes, always. Tomorrow, for episode number 932, it is last week's live podcast, Learn How to Earn More Money. I jeffed that title when I read it live as well. So we're talking about money in that one. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.